Hey everyone, it's Rabbi Shmuel Pollan, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of Light Unto the Nations show. And I want to remind you about our book, All In for God, which is made and designed to help you with any doubts you have about faith and give you direction in your life and help you deal with any challenges that atheists might lodge against you. This book is all you need for all of that. We have a very special episode for you. It's going to be a short one, but we're going to address a very important question. And the question is, does the Bible encourage slavery? Right after the Ten Commandments are given, the Bible speaks of the law of slaves. This seems inhumane or out of place, or is it? Is the Bible less enlightened than we are now about slavery? Maybe if we access the oral tradition that explains how these laws were actually implemented, we might find that this is the ultimate in fairness and compassion. First of all, these are not slaves, they are servants, voluntary servants. Slaves are bought and sold as objects. No biblical servant can be bought or sold against his will. He can only choose to become a slave, a servant, because either he is too impoverished to support himself, stole and cannot repay the debt, or borrowed and cannot repay the debt. The modern solution for all of these is either food stamps, publicly funded housing, bankruptcy, or jail. All of these are unfair and unjust. Why should I have to pay for another's food and housing forcibly? Why should someone be able to skirt out of a debt through a legal fiction called bankruptcy? And why should someone sit in jail for a debt that's owed when he should really be out there working off the debt? His sitting in jail serves no one and is productive for no one, and that is inhumane. Jordan Peterson, whom I respect greatly, says the worst thing you can do for disagreeable people, people who are not functioning in society, is to group them together. The Bible has a better approach, a superior approach. Simply work it off. Live with your boss so he pays all your bills and do the work necessary until the bill is paid. Physical or sexual abuse and even verbal abuse are strictly disallowed. In fact, the oral tradition states that if you acquire a servant, you acquire a master, because the boss must give the servant the utmost in respect. He must speak kindly and compassionately with him. The boss must go serve the servant's animal before he eats himself. The servant is to be given the first to eat from every food and drink. He must get the most comfortable bed in the house and never be given work that has no purpose. He is treated better than the boss. The servant is indeed the master. The living was so good that people were often tempted to stay permanently, which is why the Bible gives a strict penalty for anyone who stays longer than 6 years. As good as a deal as this may sound, the oral tradition still discourages the acquisition of these well-treated servants. The Bible wants every person to be only a servant of God, not a servant of man. Historically, the Bible's progressive view towards slavery had its impact. At a time when Romans had literally thousands of slaves per citizen, even the wealthiest Jews held very modest number of servants. And those servants, the Talmud tells us, were treated better by their masters than foreign kings would treat their own subjects. As much as Rome ruled over Judea, Jewish values deeply transformed Rome. One of the results was the legal privileges eventually granted to slaves and the gradual recognition of the value of human life. The greatest force in the emancipation of slavery in colonial times were the Society of Friends, also known as the Quakers. Historians discuss the phenomenon of the Quakers in the context of Hebraizing of Christianity. Their leaders were deeply influenced by readings of the Kabbalah in translation and by humanists who had learned their ideas from rabbinic sources. Baron Nathan de Rothschild and Sir Moses Montefiore made possible the Great Slave Emancipation Act of 1835 by granting 20 million pounds sterling in loan subsidies. Rather than proposing a civil war to free slaves where hundreds of thousands die, the Bible took the most peaceful route. To simply improve the conditions of the indentured servant, it paid a path it paid a new path of fairness and morality for those in the most difficult of financial circumstances. Servitude in the Bible is not inhumane, it is the most progressive approach possible to a very imperfect situation. So, even when the Ten Commandments aren't followed and you wind up in trouble, the Bible has a compassionate solution for you. Ideal? Maybe not. But more humane than the other available solutions? Absolutely. And that is the show for today. God bless.